In 2026 in America, the people only want one thing from politics: transparency and accountability. We don't get that anymore. Not at a federal level, not at a state level, and not at a local level. Well, I've got 1 week in this campaign left against Vivek Ramaswamy, and the other competitor is long gone. Now, I've always been 100% transparent because I am a man of the people, period. There's no foreign money, there's no PAC money. And everything about this campaign has happened only with the donations of the people. But then there's Vivek. So let's boil it down and be really transparent. I'm in the garage and, of course, in front of my Omega car. That was the recyclable car concept I built something like 10 years ago when I was inspired negatively by Obama's hollow rhetoric. This is the car that you may have seen on Tucker Carlson's show about a year ago. And first test, it gets well over 100 miles to the gallon on straight diesel, non-hybrid. 0 to 60 matches a Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive and a Corvette Grand Sport C7. And when you do the math, it actually has a lower carbon footprint per mile than an EV when that EV is charged at home, national average. But that kind of transparency doesn't exist with the government, and it doesn't exist with manufacturers because we live in a system. We live in a series of industrial complexes, whether that's an automotive industrial complex, a military industrial complex, a medical pharmaceutical industrial complex, or even a BS political theater industrial complex that exists with the psyop of left versus right when it basically doesn't actually exist. And you know what? I couldn't take it anymore. The entirety of my adult life I've spent trying to make the world better around me, my community, build a family, build a car that solves the problems that the politicians won't touch, that people can afford, that matters for everybody. Build an educational nonprofit, mentor young engineers, and give them what school doesn't, and help them actually get jobs. But there's no support for any of that because we live in a world of industrial complexes. Now, the truth be told, the constructs that built our society and nation, that made it great, the problem is as it evolved, eventually they become our cage. And so now, as you know, I'm in a political battle with Vivek. There's 1 week left in the primary election for the governor of Ohio. The last day to vote is May 5th. It is in fact an open election, so both Democrats and Republicans and independents can all vote for me if you think I am your person to lead Ohio. But there's no transparency from Vivek's campaign. I give you this. Do any of you know what he's ever created? What value to society he's actually brought to justify being worth over $2 million? $2 billion. $2 billion. Excuse me. Because I still haven't figured it out. But you hear a lot about the failed pharmaceutical drug early on that was supposedly helps with memory loss, that he bought the rights to, wrote a lot of medical papers, including his mother, that went and created a publicly traded company out of it, and he cashed out with how many millions of dollars? Tens of millions of dollars? More? Before the company tanked because the drug did what it always did and failed. And that's what people see. And the people of Ohio and America believe that is a pump and dump scheme. They believe that Vivek Ramaswamy and his money is an absolute fraud. Now, legally, he's never been arrested for that, of course. But you still wonder, what's this guy ever done for anybody? But now it matters in Ohio. He couldn't make it to president. He rode President Trump's coattails all the way after he couldn't get the vote of Krispy Kreme Christie. Then he got appointed to do Doge, but he didn't do no Dogen. Bounced out of that or got booted out of that, and then it's going to run for the governor of Ohio, my state, my family's state that goes back generations, that Vivek thumbs his nose at and tells us how we don't know what an American is, how we are lazy, how our culture venerates mediocrity. Well, that's funny, because I've been working with my hands and building things and helping young people get jobs and trying to build genuine nonprofits that matter and a tangible car that actually functions in the real world. And we still don't know what Vivek's ever done. But he's never done anything for the people in Ohio. He left after high school. No businesses in Ohio. Worth over $2 billion. No real charity work of note. I've got well over 10,000 hours documented doing Genius Garage. My life is not better off from it. I'm not richer from it. A lot more gray hairs. Vivek? I heard him say he once donated up to $100,000 to charity. What charity? I don't know. Maybe it's one that magically helps people in need. Or maybe it's one that just makes him look good. But I do know that in the last 3 months in the campaign, he spent nearly $500,000 just on polling. And he spent more money in a month or 2 months on jet fuel for his private jet, campaigning in a state that I can easily drive around in a sports car in a couple hours than ever did in charity. That's how much he cares about the people of Ohio. And that's why Fox News should be so happy to have him on again for the umpteenth time to tell everybody why he should be the governor of Ohio. When really the GOP's made a horrible mistake. The leader of the GOP, I've been very nasty to on X, and he deserves it. That man needs to be put on a leash and muzzled the same way that they basically locked Vivek in the basement, and the entirety of his advertising campaign is paying other people to say nice things about him. Because every time Vivek opens his mouth, he oozes condescension, hatred, contempt for Ohioans, contempt for America, contempt for our relatives, all the people that fought in all the wars and built the entirety of this nation for the betterment of the future. But he never stops there. He's happy to tell Christians all about religion and their religion, despite being Hindu. Well, I don't know much about the Hindu faith, but it's kind of odd. I think it's weird that they worship cows and do things with cow dung and urine, but that's their belief, and I appreciate the freedom of religion. But I don't like it when somebody from such a dissimilar religion and born to Indian foreign nationals tells Americans what they are, because it's my family that's been fighting for generations to make the future better. It's me that's been fighting to make the future better for all Ohioans in America, and it's Vivek who's done absolutely nothing. The best we can figure is he's just the final boss of the Indian call center scammer. Air quote, metaphorical. That's what the people think. But he's running for governor. What media is left? Is there any real news left? The big ones, Fox News, I believe they're classified as entertainment, which means they don't have to meet the laws and regulations of broadcasting, of fairness. Because if they did, they would legally have to have me on the channel just as much as Vivek, but they don't. Because since it's entertainment, but the people think it's news, guess what it gets to be? Propaganda. That's all it is. But the big influencers, why don't they have me back on? That's a great question, isn't it? The Ohioan, who couldn't take it anymore, that stood up to the multi-billionaire, endorsed by everybody, including the president, seemingly in bed with everything. The Ohioan that went up against things relating to Les Wexner and Jeffrey Epstein, who's been in Ohio for a decade. All of the evil here. But the influencers don't talk about me. Controlled opposition, perhaps? You know, the ones there to just relieve a little bit of the pressure of the people, of the horrors going on because of all the governments. But don't let Casey on, because he represents the real opposition. Opposition to evil. Opposition to an establishment that's only become a kleptocracy and a plutocracy. A government and leadership that wants to keep everybody down. That unchecked every single of the industrial complexes we spoke about will bleed all of us dry. And about the time it's bled all of us dry, don't worry. Vivek and his cronies, his billionaire tech bro buddy, are going to usher in a surveillance state, a global surveillance state. Ohio is a laboratory for it. The data centers everywhere. They are hubs for it. They want us to pay for them. They were slipped in under the cover of the night with NDA forms. So public officials can't talk about it. Does that seem right or legal? Tax abatements, 10, 15 years. We subsidize the cost of skyrocketing electricity bills because they're not building anything to create new power generation, destroying our aquifers, destroying our rivers, destroying our Lake Erie, our beautiful environment for nothing. It's not nothing. And it's not for you to send emails and texts and rainbow kitty memes on Instagram. They're hubs. It's to control everybody and everything. Where's the pushback? Where's the support for the people? I got another video coming out soon because I can track Vivek's money of small donors and use AI, believe it or not, to then cross-reference it with what those donors also give money to, so we can see exactly who, having absolutely nothing to do with Ohio, desperately wants a multi-billionaire to have a job that's more than a full-time job that pays less than $200,000 a year. The governor. Vivek's clearly not doing this because he cares about anyone or the state or America. He's doing it because they want an ROI. They want to pillage and scavenge us, our resources. Because the people at the end of the day are the best resource of the state. We are the state. I won't comply. I'm not part of this. We don't want it. And we don't want Vivek. Now, Vivek has apparently spent over $500,000, if I'm reading this correctly, on his campaign, on polling in the last few months. So they should have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And what it's pretty plain to see is that Vivek, if he makes it to the general somehow, will turn the state blue. Amy Acton, the Democrat, which, by the way, the Democratic Party is revolting. It's done nothing but divide the entire social fabric of America for the entirety of the Biden years for no benefit to any group of people. Quote me on that. But all Amy Acton has to do, the woman who locked down the state during COVID, ruined lives and businesses, resigned as health director because the pressure was too much, she would beat Vivek head to head because all she has to do is smile and have pretty hair. That's not a dig on women. That's a dig on Vivek because he's that revolting of a candidate. And the GOP is so sold out and 100% out of touch with the people. If they had any brains, they'd hire me as a consultant. But honestly, they look like they're too far gone. He will lose. Vivek is currently, if I'm not mistaken, undergoing RICO with Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel with his CIA connections and, of course, the mastermind behind Palantir. That somewhat disfigured-looking, tweaky homosexual man, fact, who recently would go out and lecture Americans, strangely, on the Antichrist. At the very least, why are you so interested in that? How do you know so much about that? When the reality is we all reacted, gosh, couldn't he just go home and look in the mirror? Is this a self-help performance art for him? Oh, and now the allegations are coming out that he, it's possible, is having an affair and cheating on his wife. As reported by The Rooster. You hear a lot about it. Doesn't mean it's true. People have said a lot of untrue things about me. I don't see any swastikas around here. Stupid. But you know, with Vivek, there's a hell of a lot of smoke. And usually where there's smoke, there's fire. So the thing is simple. It's time for all of us to do two things. One, we have to get all of our friends rallied and together by May 5th and get out and vote We have to kick Vivek Ramaswamy to the curb forever. Yes, that means you need to vote for me and my lovely Lieutenant Governor Kim Georgeton, who's an amazing person and powerhouse. This was never on my life bingo card. But when I say vote Putsch, save Ohio, I mean this is our shot. Because we're staring down a barrel right now. The other thing is I'm calling it like we see it. It's time for Vivek to drop out now and let me and the GOP get things in order so that we can actually maintain the state and go together in a positive direction for the future. Vivek, you've not earned the trust or admiration of the people. You continually demean us in our culture, and you continually get into scandals. Drop out. And if you won't, I'll give you this challenge, since you wouldn't debate me and you choose to ignore that I exist. My car gets over 100 miles to the gallon on diesel. It actually exists. So I tell you what, in the next week, let's see your pharmaceutical drug that cures Alzheimer's. And if you show me that, show me your creation that helped make you wealthy, I'll drop out. But you can't. So you drop out.